If you're looking for a used vehicle in the Chicagoland area, North Naperville Autos is your one-stop shop for quality pre-owned cars. Stop in and visit or browse their inventory online at www.northnapervilleautos.com. Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 2008 Lexus IS250. Up front is a 2.5 liter V6 and down below is a 6-speed manual transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving this here IS250 because it is a manual transmissioned IS. This is one of the last cars that Lexus ever produced with a manual transmission, so I'm excited to talk to you guys about that today. But before we get on to anything else, I have a website, zackpradel.com, where you can buy stickers and other merch when it becomes available. You can also submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me through a quick and easy submission form. You get a video of your car just like this one, and you could read my behind the scenes blog to see what I'm filming before it comes out on the channel. But let's get back to that 2.5 liter V6 under the hood, making about 205 horsepower, which isn't anything too crazy, but for a V6, it's pretty nice. And it is the 4GR FSE from Toyota. They use this in a bunch of other vehicles. The 2.5 liter V6 is pretty standard at this point. It's not anything mind-blowing, and you could also find this with a 3.5 liter V6, and you could also get the ISF of this generation, which came with a 5 liter V8. So you did have your power options here in the States for the IS, and even overseas there were diesel options. I want to say like a 2 liter or 2.2 liter, but I'm not sure since we didn't get them here. But let's stop talking about the engine. Let's talk about that manual transmission. So again, it's hard to find stats for a car like this of just how many manual transmission ISs were here in the States. But from what I found on an old forum post, shout out to Jeff, is that about 3% of ISs here in the States for the second generation had the manual transmission. I also read that they made about 1,500 a year, so pick your poison when it comes to that, but at the end of the day, they are rare. They did not sell or make very many of these manual transmission second generation ISs, and so this makes it a very rare car, and I love driving rare cars. I love sharing with you guys things that, well, you don't quite see anymore, or you didn't really even see many of at the time. It's always exciting to me. It is a 6-speed manual, and it's shared with several other cars from Toyota's lineup. And so how does it drive? How does it feel? Well, it drives like a Toyota manual transmission. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing special. As the kids would say these days, it's rather mid. The clutch is fine. It's not too stiff. It's not too heavy, but it's also not very entertaining or interesting. The shifter throw is a little bit long. I did read a lot of people on the forums say that a short throw shifter absolutely changes this car 100%, and I could see that being the case. Now, I don't have that to share with you guys today, but I imagine it would be something like that. But even though the manual transmission isn't groundbreaking or anything to write home about, I'm just happy to be driving a more modern Lexus with a manual transmission. Even though this is a 2008, they sold the manual transmission here in the United States until 2012, where they discontinued it in the IS, meaning they discontinued it for all of Lexus. Lexus has not put out a manual transmission vehicle in the last 10 years. Rather fitting that exactly a decade ago from the filming of this video, they ended their manual transmission production. So it's rare, it's decently fun, and I'm just happy that it's here. Last but not least, this particular IS250 is rear-wheel drive. So with that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have two very elegant gauges. On the left is my speedometer and fuel, and on the right is my tachometer and coolant temperature. I also do get some information gauges in the center for display and average MPG and things like that. And I think that they're very clear, concise, and very Lexus. On the steering wheel, on the left, I have my volume, skip track, and mode, and on the right, right, I just have my display button. I do have cruise control to the bottom right of the steering wheel, and overall, the steering wheel does look and feel pretty nice. Off to the left, I do have a climate control vent, as well as some dead switches, gas cap release, and trunk release. Moving on to the door, I have my handle to get in and out, power mirrors, power windows, and power locks down by my left knee. Moving into the center, I have two climate control vents and my climate controls / radio. It's all sort of mushed together, and Acuras of the same year and generation have this same issue. I don't know why Acuras and Lexuses from this year smashed everything together in this center. I guess screens weren't prevalent enough, but also they had a lot of tech, so this was kind of their solution. And so it's just really, really jumbled, but I do get dual zone climate, which is very nice, and automatic climate. Heated mirrors is very nice. And then for the radio, I can text and mute and pre-select and all these different things. But down below that, I have a digital clock and my hazard switch, and then even more radio options for my CD player, power and volume, tune and file. I also have aux inputs, which for 2008 are very nice. And overall, this center stack is just kind of cluttered, but that's what the 2000s were. So par for the course. Then I get an ashtray and cigarette lighter, and then we have the shifter. So this is not the stock shift knob. However, it does feel great, and there's this collar around the outside. You pull up on that to allow you to get into reverse. It's a little safety lockout. And off to the right, I have the shift pattern itself, which is very, very cool to see in a manual transmission car like this. I love that when they do that. And overall, it's a very presentable center console. Off to the right of that, I do have the handbrake, and then I have a little tiny cup holder. So we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the IS250 manual. And unfortunately, it doesn't pass. The other IS that I drove from the same generation didn't pass either. So nothing crazy, but still sad to see. Then we do have a center console / armrest, and then we got to talk about the seats. All ISs in the United States got leather. However, up in Canada, they actually got cloth as an option, which is kind of unique and interesting, but these seats are nice and comfortable. They aren't heated, although they are power, which is nice, but overall, decent. Speaking of seats, however, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2008 Lexus IS250 manual, and it is a little bit cramped. Now, you have to remember that the IS is pretty much one of the smallest chassis that Lexus offers. You can go up to the ES, the LS, and those get big, big sedans. These, you know, they have back seats, and for normal sized people, that's not going to be the end of the world. You could drive your nieces and nephews around, whatever it might be. But for me, a bigger guy, I'm not very comfortable, especially compared to the ES, and especially compared to the LS. I mean, the LS, I could live back there and be happy. In this, it's a little bit tighter. Think like BMW 3 Series, that sort of size when it comes to back seats. I do get two climate control vents back here. Very, very nice for the rear seat occupants. I also get an ashtray, thank the Lord. And I do get a little center console with two fold-out cup holders and an openable top, just some little cubby storage, but nothing crazy beyond that. Overall, it's a fine back seat. It functions. I'm just not over the moon about it. Let's go hop around the very back. We'll talk about the trunk, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, so we're on the back of the IS250, and we do have on the key here, press and hold to pop the trunk. Just pops it up a little bit like that, and then you could just come in and flip it all the way up. Decent sized trunk, nothing really too crazy, and I've done Lexuses like this before. For the size of sedan, I think it's fine, but what's interesting is that this has a 2008 Velcro Lexus first aid kit. So let's open this bad boy up. Kind of hard to do with one hand, but let's see what's inside. Oh, look at all that stuff. So you got some cotton swabs, first aid and CPR, some bandages, little strips like that, some Band-Aids. None of this stuff is Lexus branded. I don't see really why it would be, but you know, just something interesting. I bet you didn't think you'd be seeing the inside of a 2008 Lexus first aid kit today, but That's one of the great mysteries of life. You never know what you're going to see, especially here on the Shooting Cars YouTube channel. Got to keep you on your toes. Boom, Shrek. See, didn't see that one coming either. So really, really nice cargo area for a sedan like this, but nothing too crazy. Now we got to talk about the looks, and this car has an additional little lip. It's also lowered on aftermarket coilovers. I want to say Eibach coilovers, spelled with an E, if you want to look them up. But overall, I think that this generation of IS is really, really handsome. I've always liked how proportioned these were, and just the overall front end, rear end. I think it worked really, really well, and it's not even macaroni styling where it's ugly, but I love it. It's actually just good. It's not even ugly. It is good. And so with that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think finally driving a manual transmissioned second generation IS? Well, a couple of things to note. First of all, I love driving anything rare. Anything rare, that's super cool to me. And so this inevitably is very cool. Is the manual transmission the best transmission I've ever shifted in my whole entire life? No. It's not the worst either. I still think it's better than most, if not all, American shifters from the era, especially the Ford Mustang. If you compare this to the Ford Mustang shifter of the same year, you're comparing covered wagons to spaceships. I mean, this is just infinitely better. But I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy that this has a manual transmission at all. And from what I read online, 2009 was a facelift for the IS, and it actually got a better manual transmission, supposedly, but I haven't driven that, so I can't really tell you. But what I can tell you is that Lexus does not make a manual transmission anymore. I hope they pull a card from Acura's playbook and bring something manual back. Acura just released the new Integra this year, and it welcomed back the manual transmission that's been vacant for over 8 years from them. Well, I hope Lexus does the same. I know that they're making the IS500 right now, and that seems like a cool car, but still not manual. There are no manual Lexus options here in the United States, and there haven't been for over a decade. This car marked the end of an era for Lexus. You used to be able to even get ESs back in the 90s in stick shift. And of course, the first generation ISs are iconic. Those came manual. The SC300s came manual, at least as options. Now, they were rare too, but at least it was an option. And this car was the final car from Lexus to have that option, to at least give you the ability to get a manual if you wanted one. But that's it. Lexus doesn't produce a manual anymore, and Toyota is hard-pressed to produce a manual. They're finally offering a manual Supra, and the GR Corolla and Corolla hatchback come in manual, but besides that, it's hard-pressed to find 3 pedals in a modern Toyota, and that's a little sad. So while I don't overly love this car, I'm not gonna scrounge around my couch looking for loose pennies in hopes of buying one this instant, but I just gotta respect it. You know, this is the end of an era. This is the marking of time, especially for Lexus. And it's cool to be driving something like that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to North Naperville Autos for letting me take out their manual Lexus IS250. This was such a treat and such an interesting look. The final Lexus to have a manual. They are absolutely awesome. They offer shipping to your front door in the United States. They offer financing, as well as they are Carfax certified. They will find the right vehicle for you, whether it be this manual IS or something else in their inventory. Definitely let Nacho or David know what you're looking for, and they'll find the right car for you. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.